with Jon Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, everybody? Jon Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Playbook Show. We got 7 games here on a Friday to close out the work week. James, my friend, how are we doing today, man?
Doing well. Happy Friday. TGIF, TG freaking IF. Interesting slate to end the week. No Wemby, front leg of a back-to-back. Trae Young news dropped earlier. We just got the injury report for the Pacers not too long ago. That's interesting, considering a name that is not on it and names that are on it.
Sure.
Very interesting to see what happens with the Pacers. Looks like the Lakers have just unreal and not real questionable tags on them. Again, like LeBron, he's going to play. Davis,
Right.
I know Davis is probable, but yeah, all in all, pretty interesting slate. Anthony Simons, the midday illness downgrade. I know he played through it the other day, but all in all, pretty fun looking 7 games right in the wheelhouse.
Yeah, 100%. We got a couple of games, some decent matchups. San Antonio, Charlotte, 235.5 game total, even though there is no Wembanyama for San Antonio here. Charlotte, a 4.5-point home favorite. We got Philadelphia against Orlando. Orlando, a 5.5-point home underdog. 223 total in that one. Denver, Boston. That spread is now up to 7. It opened at Boston giving 5.5. They're now giving 7. Take that for what you will here. 234 game total there. Atlanta, Miami. Miami is now giving 7. The total in that one dropped from 228 to 222 on the Trae Young news there. Phoenix, New Orleans. New Orleans given 2, a 237 total in that one. Indiana versus Portland. Portland getting 6 at home, a 237 game total there. Then our late night hammer, 10:30 start time. Lakers giving 7 at home, 225 game total there against the Nets.
Yeah, I mean, nothing really else to talk about. The Pacers Portland game, really intriguing. Denver, Boston, the line movement, I just think has more just how good Boston is at home, how bad Denver's been ATS on the road. Sure. So that's obviously the best game of the night, like in terms of just pure basketball. Yeah. There's a potential finals preview. And yeah, I mean, there's fun basketball everywhere. San Antonio, no Wemby, but expected to get Zach Collins back tonight. Right. And then Zach Collins expected to sit tomorrow, and Wemby comes back tomorrow because Wemby said it was very important for him to sit tonight and play tomorrow because they play Washington, and Bilal Coulibaly is like his best friend, so he wanted to play against him. So that's the reason we don't have Wemby tonight. But yeah. Let's do this dance.
Yeah, appreciate all you in chat already. If you haven't already tossed a like down on today's show, please do so. If you haven't subscribed already, do that as well. Get notifications turned on. Never miss a show. We got Cam the Man in the chat. We got Angel in here and Prime 8. And I know a few of you others are lurking in there as well. Feel free to throw some comments, questions, lineup questions, prop bets, all of that. Can go ahead and throw them our way. Angel here wants to know I would imagine Tatum Jokic combo for points over. I don't know what that is. Let me know what the number. I'll give you an idea. You probably assume both of those guys going 25-ish points tonight each in that range. So if it's like 50.5, maybe we talk about it. But we can get into it all. Point guard position here. Halliburton's your questionable guy at $9,900 over on the DraftKings slate. Trae Young's already ruled out. Booker, $9,100. Maxey, Ball, Murray. Talk to me about this 8K and above tier.
I mean, Halliburton's definitely interesting. Second straight day, rather. We're going to get the questionable tag listed. Obviously, that's good news considering he had just been listed out for the last week or so. If he plays, 9,900 is too cheap. I don't think there would be any type of limitations. He hasn't played in 11 days. So it's not like the cardio won't be up to snub. If he plays, we'd just be worried about a blowout, obviously, against Portland because they beat the Kings outright without Halliburton last night and Siakam. So he's a really good price tag if he plays. Not a lot of interest in Booker. You can get to him in tournaments if you want. Same thing goes for Tyrese Maxey. He's been pretty good lately, 50 in 2 of his last 4. Yeah. Should be a competitive game, but Orlando's good defensively. I think, it's same thing with Jamal Murray. Like, we know Jamal Murray has a ceiling for unemployment tournaments. That's fine. But, like, all roads lead back to LaMelo Ball. It's just 2 of the 3 games, he's scored a whole bunch of points.
Yeah.
And 3 of them, all 3 since being back, he scored a whole bunch of fantasy points. The peripheral stats have been great. The 3-point attempts have been great. The shot attempts have been great. The only thing that hasn't been is minutes because of blowouts.
Right.
I mean, like, obviously, these are 2 of the 4 worst teams in the NBA. And there's no Victor Wembanyama. That's not a bad thing for LaMelo Ball per se,
Right.
but it could be a bad thing for the Spurs. Just like when you remove their best player, obviously it's going to be a lot harder to play defense without that, like, human being in the middle of it.
Protection that he offers, for sure.
So I love LaMelo in tournaments. You can definitely get to him in cash. I think we don't really need to worry about the minutes in a competitive game. 27, 30, 31, like, he's going to play mid to high 30s moving forward in competitive settings. And I think this is our best chance at a Hornets competitive game.
Yes, I would agree with you on that one. I was actually a little surprised even. I mean, we talked last night. I thought his rostership was going to be way higher than it is. I know our early still had him around like 22 or so percent. I thought it would have been a bit higher than that, but still no problem getting in my lineup. So we go down to the mid tier. I know you and I kind of had a little bit of a back and forth. I don't know if anything has changed for you on this front, but having McCollum here, DeJounte Murray, Simons is now being questionable. I think it's kind of interesting. Bradley Beal and Tyler Hero all in this range. DeJounte obviously gets a higher scope now with Trae Young out of the lineup, but again, the rostership isn't like flocking to him either.
No, and this is like pretty similar to the Dame situation of the other night, isn't it? I mean, Giannis gets ruled out. Dame ended up being like middle of the road ownership, but not a lot of people got there, and then we saw a blowout. I'm not saying that's going to happen tonight, but in Miami, DeJounte Murray, full of trade rumors. How good is Atlanta going to be without Trae? Like, are they going to score enough points? We've seen the point total plummet, as you mentioned, atop the show, 228 to 222. I mean, that's not a great number. And I'm not saying it can't, like, the over is not going to hit, because it certainly can, but like, nothing is really trending in the right direction for Atlanta. Like, Atlanta's second in pace in January.
Yeah.
Miami's 28th. Like, that is a massive pace discrepancy for the Hawks, despite like all and I obviously the numbers speak for themselves. DeJounte Murray without Trae Young and DeAndre Hunter this year, almost a 30% usage rate, 1.36 fantasy points per minute. Those are great numbers. It is just interesting to see the field not flocking to that, because he's 7,500. That's very cheap for a guy that we've seen go for score 40 actual in the game this year, a guy that we've seen score 60 fantasy points in a game this year. So I do find that a little bit interesting. Obviously, I do want to go in the DeJounte Murray direction. I think guards have given Miami the most problems, especially when you consider their starting guards are an old Kyle Lowry and Tyler Hero, who's much more interested in playing offense than he is defense.
Right.
So, like, I'm not shying away from Murray. I just obviously, like, there is clearly something there that the field sees, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think the total probably has something to do with it. I think for sure. I gravitated initially towards McCollum. This morning, I really do like this spot still for him against Phoenix. We know they're not a great defensive team. I know that the Pelicans are a team that they have a few guys that can do things, and sometimes someone suffers from it. But McCollum's been pretty solid. This price tag feels pretty good for him. But Murray certainly kind of is jumping out to me. So the mid tier here, I think, is pretty strong. I think they're all probably good cash game plays if you really want to go McCollum, Murray, Beal in cash games tonight. Any 3 of those for me are fine. If Simons gets ruled out, there's a value guard you and I are going to be all over, and that's Malcolm Brogdon down here at $5,400. We were talking about playing him anyways because of 26 and 30 minutes the last 2 games that he's had. But now if Simons ends up being ruled out tonight, I mean, a little revenge game, the minutes are going to be there, whether he's kind of showcasing Brogdon a bit. This is a plug and play, I feel like.
Yeah, I think both Portland starters would probably be plug and plays, including Scoot, because we saw what he looked like during that like little stretch where he played big minutes, 21 and 31 shots. Now, like, wasn't the best, but he also did have 33, 9, and 7 in one of those games. So like Brogdon's getting ownership. Like it did, which didn't surprise me because I thought there was a misprice, especially if Portland elects to, like, let's say Simons plays and they go with that same starting unit, or Sands, Duop Reith, and plus DeAndre Ayton tonight, but like the same backcourt of Simons, Brogdon, well, then like 5,400 was always too cheap because we just saw what the minute ceiling could be for Malcolm Brogdon at 30. If Simons is out, all bets are off. Brogdon's going to be one of the highest roster players by lock, just given now there's not a 3-guard room. It's just 2, right? It's just Scoot and Brogdon. So yeah,
22 shots become open somewhere, right?
Right. And Simons, right. And Simons is getting a ton of ownership today. Which is reasonable because Indiana is obviously an incredibly fast-paced team. Halliburton's defense, if he's there, that's not a good thing for India. Like, he's not a good defender.
237 is kind of a lower total for Pacer games too. Like, I wonder, I almost wonder what that's about. We're used to seeing Pacers. I thought for sure Pacers Blazers was gonna be like 250. So I wonder if it's got to do with Halliburton recently not playing. If you look at some of these games where Halliburton has been playing, the totals have been trending down a little bit. If he does play tonight, that'll be certainly an interesting matchup to watch for. Brogdon's there. Marco Fultz, another value guard we discussed here. Jordan Hawkins was a value guard we discussed this morning. Anybody else at point guard for you?
Yes, $6,200 D'Angelo Russell is firmly in play for me. He's looked really good since re-entering the starting lineup, and not even just including that Utah game. Obviously, there was no LeBron in that one, and Anthony Davis went 5 of 21 from the floor. But D'Angelo Russell does not want to be traded. He wants to make this work. He's made that pretty clear, and I think him playing well will possibly sway the thoughts of the Lakers brass into keeping this like nucleus that went to the Western Conference Finals last year. They obviously couldn't get over the Denver hump, but 36 minutes in 3 straight games is great. Something that we were talking about earlier in the year when it came to Russell, and something I was always skeptical of, is like getting taken off the floor when it was close, because he is a subpar defender. But even in that OKC game where they're up by a little amount late in games, he's playing 36 minutes in closing. So I love D'Angelo Russell, 6,200. Brooklyn's been, just sputtering. I don't know what else to really say about Brooklyn. It's just they haven't been a great team. And so I like Russell at 62. As obviously McConnell would be easily one of the better plays of the slate again. Same exact price tag yesterday. We already got the Nembhard news. He's out. If Halliburton's ruled out, easy plug. And as TJ McConnell, I feel like it's like Siakam being, and news of the day might be Pascal Siakam being not on the injury report. He is just fully clear off the injury report.
Right?
Yeah, fully clear off the injury report. Have to assume he's playing. This is similar to the Bruce Brown situation yesterday, where Bruce Brown not on the injury report, 27 minutes I think it was, and Pascal Siakam is gonna immediately start. Like, there's no question on, like, Bruce Brown. We're like, oh, maybe could start. Either way, he's gonna play. Like, Siakam's starting, playing 30 plus off rip.
Yeah.
I think Siakam really helps McConnell. If McConnell ends up being the starting point guard, similar situation to yesterday, to like have the wiggle room to get to a $5,900 TJ McConnell, which is easy. You have D'Angelo Russell at 6,200, right?
Yeah.
Not saying D'Angelo Russell is a great play. You have him in your util, you have him in your guard spot. TJ McConnell, slightly better play if Tyrese Halliburton's ruled out, and even if Ben Matherin's ruled out. Like, there's a lot of, so make sure there's wiggle room available for at the point guard position. I figured the Magic would make a starting lineup change. By the way, they did not. They're going to start Suggs. I guess they did technically make one. Caleb Houston is starting at the 2. I thought we'd get the Markelle Fultz starting news tonight. I
Yeah.
thought they would make that shift after he played 30 minutes against Atlanta. I wonder if he gets up to that again, or if he sees a decrease in minutes. Is something to monitor for sure.
Sure. Moving on over to shooting guard here, we do got Booker at $9,100. A couple of guys in dual positional eligibility, Brown and Ingram here, both in the 8K range. What were our feelings when it comes to this top half of shooting guard? Because I don't really remember us going to too much. We talked to DeJounte Murray obviously already, but does Terry Rozier still fill that void for you? There's a lot of ownership going to him today.
Yeah, it would be Rozier, Murray, or Anthony Simons for me. Of the three guys, really, Simons is obviously a fire-breathing dragon at times, where he's just unstoppable offensively. Don't like the downgrade with the illness.
Right.
Obviously, that's a little concerning. But big minutes if this is a competitive game, which they've been in 2 straight. DeJounte we've talked about, and dude, Rozier's just been super good. Even with LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's taken 38 shots in the last 2 games. He's had 40 plus fantasy points in the last 2 games, and 25 and 26 actual. He just can coexist with LaMelo Ball. I will say Brandon Miller was just ruled available, and I think it's probably something of note because they had been starting Cody Martin, and Cody Martin is not someone who's looking for his own shot when you have the likes of LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier, and Miles Bridges all taking 20 plus shots a night. Brandon Miller is also looking for a shot. So there is something there of note, because you have to assume Miller re-enters the starting lineup in place of Cody Miller Cody Martin. And that just means, second overall pick, taking a bunch of shots to begin with, probably soaking up some usage somewhere. So definitely something to monitor. Bryce McGowan's ruled out. I'm shocked we didn't get the Nick Richards news right behind that, but of course the most notable piece is not available or not there for us, but definitely noteworthy that Brandon Miller is playing tonight.
I kind of like Derek White here tonight at the price decrease, down to $6,100 here. Drew Holiday is more expensive than he is, and listen, I get it. We talked about it. It's hard for other guys to go off when Jaylen Brown is kind of playing the way he's playing, and Tatum has been kind of going off. But we were riding Derek White when he was in this 5K, low 6K range, and they ballooned him all the way up almost to $8,000. Well, now he's down to $6,100 again. I could see a scenario where he pays off this price tag.
I can see a scenario where that happens. He's just not a priority for me. The usage rate's been way, way down lately. The production's been way, way down. The peripheral stats. He's in the midst of a stretch where he's not necessarily playing all too well offensively, and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are.
Right.
And then you factor in the Porzingis equation too. Again, could I see him hitting and exceeding value? Yeah, he's been great. Other than
cheapest he's been since November. So
cheapest he's been since November. I just find it to be crowded at guard, and Derek White's not near the top of my board.
Okay. Yeah, I think for tournaments, I think Derek White could be something worth looking at there. Anybody else in this 6K range and under for shooting guard here? Bogdanovich at $5,600.
Yeah, that seems the likely chalk play of the day. 5,600. I wish he was still shooting guard, small forward. I assume he starts, but Atlanta, dude, it could be messy. They could do Trent Forrest, who's been getting rotation minutes. They could start Garrison Matthews, and just use DeJounte as your traditional point guard, and they want to keep Bogdan. Not that he won't play 30 minutes, because he'll get to 30 minutes here, but Bogdan 56 is obviously interesting. I mean, Mathurin is questionable. He played 37 minutes last night.
Yeah.
I can't imagine, unless his ankle swelled up overnight, I can't imagine this is a real questionable tag. Maybe it's just because it's a back-to-back, but again, he played 37 minutes on what was supposed to be a bum ankle, right? And then
I was gonna say he was questionable in the last night's game. They could have rested the front end, rest the other set in the back end. So that wouldn't shock me here either. I know they've already ruled some guys out, so
yeah,
maybe him being questionable kind of bodes better for him.
Right. And so I think that's intriguing. Like if there's no Halliburton, they already ruled Nembhard out and they ruled Isaiah Jackson out. So I think like there's more wing minutes to be had because Jalen Smith now you're operating as your backup center.
Right.
Now like you're pushing people down, maybe Neesmith to the power forward, like more minutes at power forward. I think if Mathurin sits, Buddy Hield, he played 36 minutes last night. I don't think 13 rebounds and assists is like really the Buddy Hield calling, but we know he's
he only took 9 shots.
Right? Yeah, that's unlikely, right? Like if Mathurin, Halliburton are out, Buddy Hield's probably not taking 9 shots. Like there's more shots to be had for Buddy Hield. So I think the Pacers, again, just like a little bit interesting, just given the uncertainty of who's playing.
Sure. Any other value shooting guards for you?
Trey Murphy, 52. I mean, the minutes ceiling rose a few games ago in a competitive setting, 28 against Denver. He could see 28 minutes, might not. Not falling for the Caleb Houston start, 4,200. He played 14 and 21 minutes in each of the last 2 games. No thanks. I guess, would you play Ben Shepherd at 33 if all those guys ruled out?
Yeah, if those guys are ruled out, I don't see why not.
Like Nembhard's already out, so Shepherd's probably already in the rotation for like some capacity. And then if Halliburton's ruled out, you have to assume Shepherd's just playing backup point guard to McConnell and potentially backup shooting guard, especially if Mathurin's out as well.
Right, agreed. Let's move on over to the small forward position here. Again, guys with multi-position eligibility that we've discussed. Some we haven't. Tatum, LeBron, your top 2 price-wise here. Going down the list a little bit more, you have Butler, you have Mikal Bridges, Ingram. Anybody in that range for you?
If you want to get to Tatum, LeBron, both are, a little too cheap for their ceilings. LeBron's been operating in like that secondary scorer, do everything else role for the Lakers right now. Tatum, in every game that's been competitive lately, he's basically gone off. So he's in top form. Indifferent on Brown and Ingram. Bridges, I mean, he's been pretty consistent of late. 21, 26, 26, 42 actual the last 4 games. He has a really high ceiling when he's scoring. He has 250 burgers over that last 4 game span. So if you want to get to Bridges against the Lakers are playing fast again. And I don't know if it completely directly correlates to their lineup change, but in the month of January, the Lakers are 4th in pace. So, like there's a good chance that you look at Brooklyn and you're like, well, somebody here is going to probably have a good game. They're going to get an increase in shot attempts. They're going to get an increased possessions. I mean, you immediately gravitate to Bridges because he's their best player. Yeah. So I would say I'm okay getting to Bridges for sure.
Okay. Again, with a 7-game slate, it feels like a lot of the depth was sort of in this top tier. As we moved our way down, there really wasn't a ton of value. I mean, Grayson Allen is here, Sadiq Bey, some guys we've discussed already. Murphy versus Herb Jones is a conversation that we've had where if they need the defense, could see Herb Jones on the floor a little bit more tonight to deal with Booker and Durant. Chuma Okeke's here, Houston's here. They're both $4,200. I didn't really care for too much really of the value tier tonight.
This position, I got a tweet today from our very own Cam the Man 325, and he tweeted at me and said, "Worst small forward slate maybe of the year."
It's great,
and I feel like he could just remove the maybe and just go with that, and it would be up there. It would have to be like a top 3. It's in the top list for at least like 7-game slate. Like Jeremy Grant, I think would become pretty interesting at 68 if Simons were to sit. Like obviously he's just a high usage player to begin with. So Jeremy Grant,
Yeah, my early lineups, I just kind of plugged Sadiq Bey in there because he was $5,500. Obviously, there's these other expensive plays up here, but for some value, that was kind of like where I was at. It just wasn't much going on for me. Power forward, obviously a little bit more here. Depth wise, we have Tatum and LeBron again. No problems playing either of them if you'd like to. I also don't mind getting to Kevin Durant. I like the $9,200 price tag on him. I understand that anybody can really go off on this Phoenix team. The ceilings at times get a little bit depressed. But on this slate, there are very few games that are both competitive with high game totals, and that's one of them. So if this one is sort of to live up to that standard, I would think Durant has a pretty good chance of getting us at least 40 fantasy points here tonight, 45 fantasy points here tonight, if not more, to get us the 5X. So I don't mind him. Obviously, I'd rather take my shots on LeBron or go down a little bit to Pascal Siakam at $8,100 for sure. But I don't mind if Durant's in some lineups tonight.
There's obviously always the chance that Kevin Durant goes nuclear because he's one of the greatest scorers we've ever seen. I'm personally not going to get there. But there's obviously merit to getting to Kevin Durant whenever you want to get to Kevin Durant.
Faisal, the one thing with Cody Martin here tonight now is that Brandon Miller's back in the lineup. So it does give him a little bit of a hit. I would still expect Cody Martin to come off the bench and probably be one of their first guys off the bench for them. But his minute ceiling just went from 30s to 25 probably. So, got to at least take that into consideration. I do know he's very cheap still. If you had to pick one, depending on where Faisal's plugging him in, would you Jordan Hawkins or Cody Martin? Both have shooting guard eligibility.
Hawkins probably just has the higher scoring ceiling, even in limited time, where I would expect Martin, if they're both competitive, Martin probably plays a few more minutes, but sure. Hawkins just you said on the pod this morning, we were tracking it. It was 13 points in 13 minutes, 18 points in 18 minutes, actual, not fantasy. It was just actual. He was just matching his minutes with his actual points. So I'd go Hawkins in terms of scoring, but I'll go Hawkins. I do think Martin does have a higher minute ceiling.
Agreed. Again, there is Siakam here. Definitely a great spot. Whether he's with or without Halliburton, Siakam's going to be, I think, in a really good opportunity here to put up some points, fantasy points here tonight against Portland. So fine going there, fine going Zion. I still like Miles Bridges, but Jalen Johnson with no Trae Young is a guy that we liked that Trae Young played, but the usage rate, the fantasy points per minute, it's all right there for Jalen Johnson here.
Yeah, without Trae Young, 22% usage rate, really solid for a power forward playing off the ball. 1.28 fantasy points per minute without Trae and DeAndre Hunter. So really solid. He's also his price was going up. Now his price is dipping, and it's been inconsistent in terms of production, but we've had 250 plus fantasy point games in the last 4. So just giving you what it could look like with Jalen Johnson. It's impressive. He has a really high ceiling, really low floor, would stick to just tournaments. The Siakam thing, John, is really interesting because I think he fits this Indiana system in so incredibly perfect. Whether or not Halliburton or McConnell is running the show, it's just get out in transition. He has the most layups and dunks this year. Talk about transition baskets. Layups and dunks at the rim. Pascal Siakam leaking out just in transition all night, every night for Indiana. It's going to be a lot of fun. If there's no Halliburton, he'd be I don't need anything. I don't need to see anything out of Pascal Siakam. You don't even know if he needs to know the offense.
Yeah.
It's just get out and go. So I love Siakam 8,100, especially if Halliburton sits. Yeah, I mean, either way, if Halliburton plays or not, it ultimately does not matter to
me. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Again, the 7K tier I think is pretty strong because again, as you sort of work your way down, some question marks: Al Horford, Jabari Walker, Sadiq Bey, Jalen Smith, Jeremy Sohan's getting a lot of ownership love here tonight, and we talked about him on the show this morning. Definitely in on some Jeremy Sohan. If Nick Richards gets ruled out, I think PJ Washington is actually super interesting here tonight as well. Could play the stretch 5 for them. You know, a couple of good value plays down here, but there's obviously a lot of questions around them as well.
Yeah, I'd assume it would be like if Nick Richards is ruled out, PJ Washington gets the first crack. I think there's like, I don't know why they're not playing PJ more at the 5. They're giving Nathan Mensah like far too many minutes, it feels like. And please just use PJ Washington a little bit more at the 5. At least I know it's not like it hasn't been like I saw a stat that he was like, it was a horrible net rating with PJ Washington at the 5, but that doesn't matter for us. Like we want PJ Washington on the floor. So I agree, if Nick Richards were ruled out, PJ Washington would really stand out. I love Sohan in tournaments. Obviously, he's getting love in cash. The minutes I think for Sohan lately have been pretty great. That's hasn't been the case this year, but 31, 38, 31 minutes in the last 3 games. He is a guy who can do a little bit of everything, and you need a little bit of everything when you take Victor Wembanyama off the floor. Like that's just, I think it doesn't hurt Jeremy Sohan either that Keldon Johnson comes off the bench, like when he's starting, because now you're looking at a situation where they implement a natural point guard in Trey Jones. He is, I would say by definition, like one of the few remaining point guards in the league, or like traditional, from a traditional sense. You remove Victor Wembanyama from the floor, and you have Keldon Johnson coming off the bench. Like that first unit has a lot of scoring appeal for Jeremy Sohan. So
we are getting some Charlotte news. This one just pertaining to Mark Williams. He had a few setbacks in his rehab and not close to returning. So I do wonder if we get maybe get a Richards update following those comments. But tough scene there for Mark Williams there.
That sucks. That sucks. I wonder if that's why we were getting like weird doubtful tags this whole time. Like, why was he listed doubtful for 15 straight slates? Never made any sense to me.
Yeah. Mark, no listener league here today. Maybe we'll bring it back. And maybe if we can get some more interest in the listener league, we'll get the listener league going there for our friends in the show here. If you haven't already liked the show here today, though, listen to Justin here, listen to Polo Cash. Smash the like button, like the smash button, whatever way you want to handle it. Go do it. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, we go live every day, 5 o'clock Eastern time. We break down the slate for everybody. Value plays down here. Again, we talked, Agonku has dual positional eligibility. We talked about the matchup tonight. Capella versus Bam. Maybe Agonku actually sees some more time on the floor in the spot here, given sort of the way Bam plays and what Capella's strengths and weaknesses are. Could be a spot for him. And then Jared Vanderbilt, someone that's getting some minutes here, and has been aggressive, can fill the stat sheet up. And at $3,500, only needs to give you 18 fantasy points for 5x. Something he's done in 3 of the last 4.
Yeah, and ultimately, like the Vandy play could also lead you to Jarice Walker, depending on what's in for Indiana. I mean, if there's no like Neesmith, Toppin, and they've already ruled out Isaiah Jackson, like we could just be seeing Jarice Walker again extended. I know like Siakam's there, but 26 and 20 minutes the last 2 games, 21 plus fantasy points in each. So there's some solid value. I'd be okay getting to any and all 3.
Yeah, probably shouldn't be lost either. The fact that Siakam had some experience playing the 5, and if you look at the centers that the Pacers deploy, Siakam very easily just played their 5 too. After Turner gets off the floor, Isaiah Jackson's undersized. Jalen Smith, stretches the floor, isn't like anything special. So, they're definitely not like stuck putting Siakam at the power forward and can't use him in other spots. So could open some room for Jarice Walker there. Finishing up at the center spot, it's everything comes back to Joel Embiid here, who's really not getting a ton of rostership here tonight. I don't know if that just has to do with the price tag, but man just went for 68 fantasy points against Denver. It's supposed to be a relatively competitive game tonight. Dealing with Wendell Carter and Goga Bitadze, not really a terrible spot here. What's your thoughts on why people aren't making Embiid chalky tonight?
Probably just because the value we've talked about and the lack there. I would say the lack thereof. Like, what was like the clear, definitive sub 5K play you were like, must have that player in my lineup?
Probably doesn't exist.
So I think you take that and then couple that with like LaMelo Ball getting 20% ownership, and you could spend $1,300 less and get Anthony Davis or something along those lines. I would say just fair and balanced seemingly is the direction people want to go. But
Yeah.
like in tournaments, that is how you get different. You just talked about it. Like, who's to say Embiid? I mean, Embiid was 3 rebounds away. Like, shocking to see Embiid not get 10 rebounds, first of all.
Right.
But if he has 3 more rebounds in that Denver game, he goes for 78, 8 to 80 fantasy points with a triple double, with a 40-point triple double, nevertheless. So
Yeah.
there is obviously he has been the best. He has been the best player in the NBA this year. He's been the best fantasy player night in, night out. Even when games blow out, he is the direct reason why. I mean, in the Houston game, he had 41 and 10 in 3 quarters. Checked out, done. In the Chicago game, 31, 15, and 10 triple double, 3 quarters, done. Didn't play the
Right.
fourth. Like, it does not matter how many quarters Joel Embiid's playing at this point, unless he gets hurt. He is getting you 60 fantasy points essentially every night. He's done it. He hasn't done it once since November 19th, or he's only failed to get 61 since November 19th. So, like, it's just one of those things where if you can comfortably, and I saw our boy Sticks in our Discord, he made a comment earlier. He fit LaMelo, DeJounte, and Embiid in his lineup. If you can do that and you're comfortable with the value, then do it. We've had a couple discussions about this lately. It's like you play Embiid and you play LaMelo. I wouldn't just play those guys just to play them and then fit like whoever into my lineup. Like you have to be comfortable with the value that you're fitting around them. Like I wouldn't just play Embiid and be like, I'm going to play Jared Vanderbilt tonight because that let me get to Joel Embiid. Like if you don't think Jared Vanderbilt has any upside or a ceiling, and I'm not saying he does or doesn't. That was just a value play that came to my mind. Don't jam Joel Embiid in your lineup just to jam him. But there's obviously as high a ceiling as anyone else in basketball on the slate. Sorry, I just hit my thing of pretzels I have on my on side here. But 11.5 is too cheap for Joel Embiid. He should be 12K every slate. So take that for what it's worth. If you're comfortable with your build around him, play him. If things are getting a little sketchy and you like finding yourself jamming other players in,
just pivot down to Anthony Davis. Who's giving you 60 plus in 3 of the last 5.
Yep.
Basically 60 plus in 4 of the last 5. So we're big fans of Anthony Davis on the spend down tonight. I know Nick Claxton obviously is a decent defender, but he also gets into a lot of foul trouble. So Anthony Davis is certainly somebody that can do the damage tonight and give yourself a $1,300 discount off of Joel Embiid. And he has 70 fantasy point upside too. Like we've seen it from Anthony Davis in the past. You're getting just a bit more consistently, obviously, out of Embiid here. For me, those are the top 2 centers price-wise. We go to the mid-tier. Bam definitely finds himself in a good spot, but Butler and Hero, you always wonder, who gets left out, who shows up. Bam could be a big bust at 87 as much as he could be a smash play. So just take some caution when it comes to that. Center was another position for me, again, personally, where I looked at, I was like, it's fine. Bam's fine. Nurkic, Ayton, fine. You can certainly go there if you wanted to here. Turner, 67, but Siakam's back. Like, didn't care a ton for that. Zach Collins, he's going to be limited on his first game back on the front leg. I know he's going to sit tomorrow, but what does that look like? I don't know. What were your feelings on center tonight, man?
So, I largely agree on like Embiid, Davis are like clear cut for me. I do have interest in Nick Claxton a little bit. The minutes have been amazing for Nick Claxton since the Day'Ron Sharpe injury, 33, 43, 32. It's really spanned since the OKC game where they've gone to Claxton just more because they needed to. I mean, this is a guy averaging 28 minutes on the year. He's now played 33 in 5 straight games, 33 or more in 5 straight games, including 43 against Miami, 38 in regulation there. There is a massive ceiling when we get the defensive stats. The numbers have been great on the boards. He's averaging 20 plus rebounds opportunities per game. That's 4th in the NBA right now in the month of January. So I get it that he has been in foul trouble in the past. He's been in foul trouble a couple times lately. only twice has he gotten more than 3 fouls since like the middle of December. So it seems like he's realizing like they need me on the floor, and that's led to him staying on the floor. And in two of these recent games, Jared Allen and Bam Adebayo were the matchups, and he was able to stay out of foul trouble. So I don't mind Claxton in tournaments. Again, Brooklyn in a massive pace up spot. He's not like priority number one, but neither is really anybody else in the mid tier here. I see through you bringing up Duop Reith. DeAndre Ayton's expected to be back. I'd expect there to be some type of limit for DeAndre Ayton, considering it was a knee injury, and this is the second time he's returned from the knee injury. But like, it's not like we're getting a discount on Duop Reith either. No. He's 5,600, and he played. I know largely because he was in foul trouble in that Brooklyn game early, but he only played 25 minutes in a game they won, and that DeAndre Ayton wasn't there for. And now Ayton's playing, so I'm not necessarily in on Duop Reith. I'd probably be more likely to play someone like Jabari Walker, who they could always elect to go small ball center with, especially if Indiana elects to go small ball center. Right. Like Jabari Walker has been starting anyways. They could always elect to go small ball center with Jabari after, if they don't feel like Duop Reith can hang if Indiana goes small ball with Siakam or with Jalen Smith spacing the floor. So kind of no for me on the Duop Reith front. I guess the Collins thing is, I would like to know what the minutes, if there's any type of limitation.
Okay, yeah, they just said he's going to start. Just now got that update, so something to certainly pay attention to there for sure. Value centers again. You can Larry Nance has been someone that's been playing. We've talked to Gonku and Vanderbilt already. Any other value centers for you?
I was looking to see if we had any word on like limit. But I don't see anything.
Yeah,
I think the Orlando centers are a little bit interesting.
Okay, Wendell Carter and Goga.
Yeah, I think they full chopped 48 minutes last game with John Isaac only playing 9 minutes. Obviously, the Isaac thing is a little weird, right? Because if Isaac plays 15 minutes, does 3 of them come at center? 4 of them come at center? I don't know. Like, it's Embiid, but there's Paul Reed on the other side. But they did just like full chop the last 2 games. Goga 34 fantasy points, double-double. There's obviously foul trouble risk. And if there is foul trouble risk, Wendell Carter's playing really well. Last 2 games, 18 and 17 actual points, 3 straight games of 23 or more fantasy points, 4 of 5 games where he's had 23 or more fantasy points. 4,500 is literally basement price tag for Wendell Carter this year.
Yeah.
For a guy who, former first-round pick, lotto pick of the Chicago Bulls, starter to start the year before the wrist injury or hand injury. I forget which it was. Thumb injury. I think the thumb. And now we're seeing the minutes trending back upwards. I don't know. Like, obviously Embiid can put anyone in a blender, and next thing you know, like Mo Wagner is forced to play because everyone's in foul trouble. But 4,500 for Wendell Carter is just flat out too cheap for if he's going to start trending it in towards like mid to upper 20s minutes.
Yeah,
it just is what it is.
I agree with you. We talked about this, earlier this year. He was, he wasn't like popping off, but he was more expensive. If he starts getting the minutes like he was getting earlier this year, but at the price tag that he is right now, he's going to have probably little trouble paying it off. I mean, he's a very talented player. It's obviously been a little bit surprising to kind of see him, playing the way he's playing, but he's, the price discount that you're getting on him after he's been over 5K now for a little bit, and he's coming off of a 35 fantasy point game. They dump his price another $400. Feels pretty good here. Let's build a lineup. What are we starting? DeJounte here, I would imagine, I guess.
John, quick note, Wemby note.
Okay.
Greg Popovich said, although he remains on a minutes restriction, that could change, quote, pretty quickly.
Okay.
So that seems
so tomorrow.
Imminent. Maybe.
Full 35 out of Wemby tomorrow against the Wizards. We'll pray for you all.
Now he said remains on minute restriction. So tomorrow seems unlikely, but soon the return of 30 plus minutes of Victor Wembanyama seems imminent. Halliburton.
Hey, so I guess that changes things to Halliburton, or are we still going to DeJounte here?
Probably still DeJounte. He's back. We don't know in what capacity. I'm assuming full. That feels. Tyrese Halliburton broke the news himself. He tweeted 3 minutes ago, not in Donovan Mitch, let him know style, but he said back. He said back active. That is
did
the
he say
Tyrese
let us know?
Halliburton.
What did he do?
Back active. That is the tweet from Tyrese.
I'm just plugging guys in. Let me know when to stop.
No, you go. You go.
We got 3 Atlanta here. You feel okay with that?
Do you want to go Siakam, or would you rather play someone like if we play Siakam? Does that take us off LaMelo Ball? And like maybe we switch him and Brogdon. You can't DeJounte, Ball, Brogdon, switch them all.
What?
No?
What?
Brogdon to the util 10 p.m. game.
Oh, that's what you're talking about. It's like, what do you mean?
DeJounte,
you're just trying to place the.
I'm trying. Yeah.
Okay. Hold on. What am I doing here? DeJounte at shooting guard?
Yeah. And then Brogdon at the. Yeah. See, you knew.
Okay. Vanderbilt. 56.
Tyrese Halliburton just breaking his own news with a return video, by the way.
Did he?
It's like 9-day absence. He's putting a return video out. Shout out to him and his PR team.
$5,600 would be Nick Richards if he's in.
Yeah.
Which would be okay.
Yeah.
That gets us Ball, Murray, and Siakam.
It does. I like that.
So just an example lineup for everybody. Obviously, we need Nick Richards to be in the lineup, but there's been so much other Charlotte news that I have to assume that it would have come up by now. If Nick Richards is out, I think I'm just going to pivot to PJ Washington.
He's $100 cheaper.
Yeah,
so
that's what I'm saying.
I
think I would just pivot there. So Ball, Murray, Bay, Siakam, Richards, Bogdan, Vanderbilt, and Brogdon for everybody tonight. $400 left over. Feel free to build your lineups as you wish. We'll be in the Discord. If you haven't already signed up, walk yourself there. Try the Dave in there. There you go. It's going to get 5 million assists to Siakam, probably.
Tonight, like just specifically tonight.
Yeah.
5 million.
Probably. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Get us in the Discord. Find us on Twitter. We'll be around if you need us. Till then, everybody, we'll talk to you all later.